So I decided to do a part 2 video because I want to go over a couple more things that I failed to mention in the last video, in the previous video. I want to talk about also social anxiety disorder, agoraphobia, and obsessive compulsive disorder. So, with social phobia or social anxiety disorder, that is a disorder in which people they have an extreme fear of being around a lot of people and socializing with a lot of people. And they may be very self-conscious. They may be worried about how they look. They may be worried about how they act. They may just be worried that they're going to do something to embarrass themselves, and they're afraid of the reaction that they will get. So, people who have social phobia or social anxiety disorder do better around very small groups or one person than they do with larger groups. They do not enjoy being in crowds. You may see them sit in the back, like if they're in a lecture hall, or I'm just going to give some examples. If they're in the movie theater, they may sit in the back. If they're in a restaurant, they may sit off in a booth so that all eyes are not just focused on them. Like they don't tend to like to sit like in the middle of a room where everyone's staring at them. And if they feel anxious when they're in social situations, they are known to just bolt, just take off. Like if they feel like they can't handle something, they're gone. They just take off. So that pretty much explains social phobia or social anxiety disorder. And there is a lot of anxiety with that disorder. They don't generally feel comfortable around a lot of people or with a lot of eyes on them. Then you have people who have what's called obsessive compulsive disorder. And with obsessive compulsive disorder, there are two kinds. The first kind are into a lot of the hand washing. They watch what they touch. Maybe some of them wear gloves. They're very funny about germs in general. So they will frequently wash their hands a million times a day. I'm exaggerating, but they do frequently wash their hands, or they may, like I said, they may even wear gloves when they touch certain things, and they're just very germophobic. Then there are those who are more into like things always being clean, things always being neat, and if things are not clean and neat, they get very anxious. They kind of feel like if they can control that, like if they can control things being neat and clean, then they have some control over their environment, because they kind of feel like they're out of control, like things are out of control. If things are a mess and disorderly and stuff like that, it causes them a great deal of anxiety. So you may notice these people like straightening pictures on your wall if it's crooked, picking something up if they don't like where it's at, and that sort of thing, or just picking up after people in general. These people tend to like everything neat and in its place and order. Now, it can get out of control. It can get out of control to the point where people will actually go around and check their items to make sure they're all in the same place that they put them. They may even name those items off, as they're checking. Like, they'll say, yep, that's my vase, that's my this, that's my that. It's an anxiety disorder for them. And some people will check locks. Even though they know they locked the door, they might check it once more, they might check it twice more. So it varies. This varies in intensity. So it can be not so bad where they just want everything neat and clean, but it's not taking up a lot of their life. But then there are people who it takes up a lot of their life, and some people get so bad that they're just backtracking so much that they spend a lot of time in their day just backtracking and checking and stuff, and it's really sad. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I mean, that's pretty much OCD there for you. If you want to look up more on it, you certainly can. And then, oh yeah, agoraphobia. I wanted to explain what agoraphobia is. So basically, that is a fear of not being able to be in control, kind of. Like, for instance, I know you're going to think this is claustrophobia, but it really isn't. Like, for instance, if there is a disorder called claustrophobia, where if people are in an elevator, they feel claustrophobic and that sort of a thing. But there's a difference. Like, they still feel like they won't put themselves into a situation where they don't feel like they're completely in control. Like, for instance, someone could feel uncomfortable on the stage trying to sing a song. If they feel like they can't escape, if they have some sort of emergency or they embarrass themselves, that can cause a lot of anxiety for them. So it's kind of like a fear of the unknown, but it's also like a fear of not being able to be in control or escape, if that makes sense. Like, if they don't feel comfortable about such a situation, they want to be able to escape that. Another example would be, okay, for instance, they don't want to put themselves in a situation where many different scenarios may happen and they may not be able to control those scenarios. It could be something like space, like either it's too small or it can also be too large of a space. So they can feel uncomfortable in big, wide open spaces and feel like they kind of feel off balance when they're in these wide open spaces. They just don't feel comfortable. And they can also feel uncomfortable in the small spaces as well, which can also be claustrophobia, but it can also be agoraphobia. So it can be that someone is afraid of not being able to escape a small space or a large space. In the large space, I think they just kind of feel like it's overwhelming, like it's too much to handle or something too much. So people can get so bad that with agoraphobia that they won't even leave their house, that they can't even leave their house. It can be something not as serious, where they can go to the store and they can go shopping and that sort of a thing, but then some people can't even handle that. Some people can't even leave their own house, and they're kind of afraid to leave their own house. So that disorder kind of varies. So I guess to wrap it all up in a nutshell, like, someone with agoraphobia, if you ask them to go camping, they're not the kind of people that are going to go camping out in the middle of nowhere. They're going to be the kind of people that they're going to want to know that the nearest hospital is within like 10 or 15 minutes away. So basically, they're afraid, and they're afraid of the unknown, and they're afraid of things that they cannot control, and they're afraid of not being able to escape a situation if need be. So hopefully that makes sense. For more information, you can look it up for yourselves. But I just wanted to cover those disorders as well, because a lot of people suffer from those. And just because someone suffers from social anxiety disorder or social phobia or obsessive compulsive behaviors, excuse me, I'm sorry. Obsessive compulsive behaviors, or I'm like laying down, and when I lay down and relax, like sometimes the phlegm just comes up in my throat. You know how that is. But anyway, I wanted to go over those different things because I wanted to make it clear that these are not necessarily mental illnesses. It depends on the severity of it. Like, if someone's severely OCD or severely or really severely agoraphobic, then I would say that they may have a little bit of a mental illness. But if it's on the lesser scale, it's mostly an anxiety related type thing for all three of those things. And some people can actually get counseling, and they can learn how to deal with those things and function normally in society. So I wouldn't call them mentally ill. So it depends on what extreme as to that. So hopefully this video was also interesting to you, and I'll be back on another time with more videos.